Okay, this is the daily review for Wednesday, September the 7th. We first start out with our areas. We have resistance marked at 1 and 40.90, and we have support on the chart from 1 and 40.55. These areas we calculate from looking at several different time frames, including the daily and the weekly. We look at retracements and extensions. We look at daily pivot levels going back 5 trading sessions. And we also look at double top, double bottom formations on the other time frames. We assemble these into a database on a percentile basis. Then we pick out the ones that have the greatest preponderance, and these are the levels that you see on the screen. And it often, very often, serves as a great indication for the limits of where the market's going to go. These markets, especially the euro currency, seems to pivot and pay a lot of attention to these areas, and they represent the basis for which I trade, and my objective is to trade from one area to the next after evaluating the trend. So let's have a look where we started from early in the trading session. We were progressively making higher highs and higher lows. We bounced off of support at the 40.55 area and came back to a retracement area. These double bands in here, they represent for every pivot advance, in this case moving upward, they measure a 50 to 61.8% retracement, and then I average the data as we go along. So it gives me just kind of a guide as to where the possible retracements and where to expect the retracements, provided that the trend is going to remain intact. And so I use that as a way to enter into the market and measure and limit my exposure in taking a risk of taking such entries. So got long here basically just before the open, a little early in the day, shortly before 4 o'clock. And took profits and had 20 points of profits to capture before we got up to resistance. Once we got up to resistance, the market did oscillate above and below the area, never really advancing any further, and we were able to justify an entry to the short side, coming back down into support. And so again, this is how we use the levels to trade from and as a target. So captured a nice 40-point profit, 42-point profit in here, and then the market started to advance to the downside. We started making lower lows, lower highs coming down at shortly after 9 o'clock Eastern time, reached the outer band. We had 35 points of profit, but no real advance, no real decline here on the momentum indicator. So went ahead and took profits there, expecting that this market would be somewhat contained because we're not making any new ground here in terms of momentum. And in fact, we did kind of snap back up here, back up to support, came back down a little bit, was able to find a very low risk trade here, with the idea of advancing again up to resistance, which we did. Saw a nice profit there to end the day shortly after 11 a.m. Eastern.